Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to the latest episode of the Rich and Turbo Heavy Half Hour. You have Rich. Find me at Fuzz Doom Rip, all the socials at rich.piva, doing reviews from Musipedia of Metal as a Doom Charts contributor. And I also have my relatively new Doom Charts contributor partner, Turbo, with us. Turbo, looking green today. The Green Man. What's going on?
I mean, the beard is fantastic.
I was just gonna say Happy Sasquatch Day because I don't care about the Irish.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We recorded this on St. Patrick's Day. We're very excited, and I'm very excited to introduce Curtis from the band Witch Ripper, a band that we, as in Turbo and I, have been fans of for a while now, especially after their 2023 record called The Flight After the Fall, which was in my top 10 of that year. And Curtis, who is the guitarist and the vocalist of Witch Ripper, is here to talk about the new record that drops on the greatest day of the year, April 10th, and it's called Through the Hourglass. Curtis, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Dude, I am happy to be here. And like I was saying, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's like, I just love talking about music in general. So it's always great to meet like-minded people.
Love it. Love it. The new record is amazing. For those of you who are fans, make sure you pre-order it through Magnetic Eye. It's out. The pre-order's up now. It comes out on April 10th. The splatter is glorious looking, from what I can tell, at least in the pictures. Um, I, I and we're going to get into the record itself. The Obsidian Forge is one of my favorite songs ever. Like ever.
Fuck yeah.
And I think what gets me about Witch Ripper is the heaviness, but also the melodic nature of what you guys do.
Yeah.
And that to me comes through even further on Through the Hourglass. Tell us a little bit about the new record, if you don't mind, then we'll dive a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we knew right off the bat when we started writing it that we wanted it to be like a sequel to the previous album that came out in 2023 story-wise. And there was a few like tonal shifts we wanted to do on it. And I always kind of equated it to like Star Wars, where we had this bright, colorful album, A New Hope. And then we want to do our Empire Strikes Back. So it's intentionally darker, has a little bit more focus on, without getting too nerdy, like harmonic minor melodies are a lot more prevalent in this album, like intentionally. And we really wanted it to be like a yin and the yang. So we even got the same album artist. Like you just pop the albums right next to each other. They look like they go together. They sound like they go together. Like it was really like that was the starting goal from the whole point. I was like, I want to do like we had our bright, colorful album. Let's just do a little bit darker one that's like just kind of to be it together.
Awesome. I love the Star Wars comparison, and this one being the darker record. You guys are storytellers when you put this record together. I think both musically and thematically and lyrically. Where does that come from? Who does the writing, and what are your influences around the writing of both the music and the lyrics?
Yeah. I mean, like, I'll probably say that I'm like the driving force behind it, but the guys really are the ones that help me refine stuff and turn it into the music that we do. So it's like 99% of it is like riffs that I bring to the table, but then I'll have ideas for songs, but those guys are like, that works, that doesn't. We all come together when it comes to writing lyrics. I think like a lot of times I'll have like a general outline of like, this is what I want this story to do. And here's what this song should accomplish in the album order. Help me write this song lyrically. And Chad and Brian and Joe really are helpful with that. And Chad has a really interesting way of writing lyrics where he uses a lot of words that to me I would never put in a song. Like just like stuff I'm like, I've never even heard that before. And he's really good at that kind of like more like he's like more abstract with his lyrics where I think I'm more like literal about them. So it's like it's a good mix to have that together. And then the whole storytelling thing goes just being a fan. Like I'm a very visual person. Like you can't see, but on this wall, I have a whole like wall full of graphic novels that I think are just like not comic books, but like just like that visual storytelling is just kind of ingrained. So even when we're writing music, I think of it visually as well, you know? So, and I just want to like, I want to tell a story because it's just more fun to me. I don't. I It's like having it helps have the songs have meaning too.
Yeah, there's like a journey on your records, which I think is very cool, and even though I can take a song like Obsidian Forge and have it be one of my favorite songs ever, and have that by itself, also in, like, the grand scheme of the record, it's, like, this, like, major important point of the story you're telling in, like, that episode 1, which is a I think it's a challenge, a lot of concept records out there, they don't some of the songs don't stand up on their own. They're just, they have to be part of it, where I think here you can take some of these pieces out and still listen to them as, like, singles or, if singles still existed
Yeah,
these days.
I mean that's hopefully the goal. It's like the music. I mean, hopefully, yeah, the music should stand by itself. Like you don't want people to be like, "Man, this concept album's great," but if you listen to this one song by itself, like, like like we don't want to have any duds, especially when we do albums that only have like about 6 or 7 songs. It's like there's no room to kind of half-ass it, and like the guys will tell you like I'll rewrite songs like 18 times or whatever. Like I've made them like learn riffs that we play for 3 months, and then like I'll show up to practice, be like, nope, scrap it, hate it. We're not even doing that anymore. We're taking that one riff and turning that into whole something else. And so it's like there's not a lot of room when you're doing 7-minute songs, and like this record, I think it has 7 songs, but it's technically 6 because one's an intro. Like there's just no room for fluff, really.
Yeah, and there's so much going on in those songs, which I'm gonna ask you about after, but Turbo, 6 minutes in, gets a question. That's a record, maybe a record for me, uh, giving you a chance to ask a question. But Turbo, what do you got? What do you got for Curtis?
Yeah, I love the idea of you talking about the album prior to this and this one being 2 parts. For me, I like the darker side. I like this is like a pure heavy metal album for me. It's like an evolution of heavy metal that you may have reached. I don't know if you did it consciously or if it was just a subconscious thing that happened. To me, it's like I listen to a lot of music and I think, wow, this is where heavy metal should be these days instead of people doing the screaming and the black metal sound, doom metal, not the doom metal sound, the death metal sound. It all sounds the same. Um, but yeah, the production on this has really been a little bit different than, I guess, heavier than the last one. The last one was a little bit more psychedelic. This is a little bit more, I want to kick your ass, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I can go into production details. I don't really know if you guys how deep you want to go into this,
Let's
but
do it.
there's actually like there's thought process into why you're hearing what you're hearing. And so like the last album, The Flight After the Fall, is a lot more layering. And like I forget that was it the Phil Spector, like the Beatles guy who's like, cool, just keep adding parts on it, and it's just giant wall of sound. And that's kind of what happens on
Yeah.
that album, The Flight After the Fall. And one thing that I was like, oh, it's kind of bummed me out actually about that album is I felt like the drums actually got a little lost because there's no space to fit stuff in. And so on this new album, uh, we still have a lot of like synths and stuff, but we actually left a lot more open space. And then Matt Bayless, who did the album, he did our first full length called Homestead. He's really good at getting punchy drums, and I really like his vocal production as well, just in general. But by leaving that space, and I'm talking about even things like so the Portal, that first single that came out, like there's the choruses, just big chords happening like that. Instead of actually strumming through them, we're playing open chords every time the chord changes because it leaves room for arpeggios and drums and bass to actually like have a better place to sit. And that was like a real conscious effort. And with the heavier drums, it's just going to sound heavier, because they can actually punch through.
Turbo,
That's
that is
one of the things.
astute. Go ahead, Turbo, sorry.
Well, yeah, because we talk about, we love it when bands put the air in, that it's not completely, I mean, it's not over like a wall of sound where it's just too much. It's just like with this, it's like there's a lot there, but it's full, but it's not overbearing as far as like cut something out, or because you can hear everything. It allows everything to breathe. And yeah, I was hoping Joe was going to be here because I really love the drums on this, man. He's like, he just kicks ass.
Yeah, we'll see. He might pop in. I don't know. I apologize for that. But yeah, I mean, like, Joe's an really interesting drummer, in the sense of like he does a lot of jazz, and like he's the reason he's probably hasn't popped in yet is because he's teaching drum lessons. That's what he does for a job. Like he went to college for like drum performance. He's very much that guy, and I think he approaches metal drums a hair differently. Like he can do the punishing double kick straight ahead stuff. And there's times where I ask him to do that, where I'm like, "Hey, man, I want that Pantera 4 on the floor right here. Just drive it home." But he does a lot of like kind of flammy snare stuff that I don't think a lot of drums, especially in metal, because it's a awkward approach to metal, but it kind of defines his style a little bit. It drives the producers mad because he does it on the kick drum sometimes. And they're like, "What are you even doing, man?"
It it's funny you mentioned that turbo because that's a good call out. I was listening to, and I want to get back into. I'll get back to this topic later, but I was listening to the Magnetic Eye Soundgarden tribute where you guys do Rusty Cage, and the fucking drums on that. Like I don't know what's going on and what he's doing on that, but Matt Cameron was probably like, "Holy shit, who is this lunatic? And what is he doing to my parts? Because it's amazing." Like I don't know that is him playing on that cover, I assume. And
Yeah, yeah. And like Matt Bayless produced that cover
I
as well.
had a
So again,
feeling.
like he gets like snappier drum tones, I think, in general, you know? That part, I mean, if you're talking about the like the fast part of the song,
Well, actually,
like
when it slows down, like I think there's a
oh
part
yeah,
where the part where it would normally slow down in the song because you guys kind of have a slow, fast,
yeah, we
and
did
the
a
slow, and then the slow part of the song because you made it your own,
Yeah.
which was very cool. There's a part where he just kind of goes off, and I think it's like the third or the part where you slow down right before the
yeah.
original slowdown of the songs, you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say
No,
here.
it's yeah, I mean that was the whole idea, like that bridge in the original version is pretty rocking still. And I was like, it sounds so heavy if we just like caveman it out and just do the dun 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 kind of thing. And like, when the guitars are simpler, again, it allows the drums to have a little more space to do that kind of stuff, where he can be like, cool, I'm gonna put this crazy fill in there and just like go for it.
It's, yeah, that's a great call out, Turbo, on the drums, 'cause I definitely noticed that too, and it's funny that or it makes sense that, the same producer did the drums on that song. I wanna get to your vocals because I am always amazed by someone who can growl and then someone who can sing and seemingly like
It's not me.
it's not? It's not?
No. We're very fortunate that I do all the screaming vocals and Chad does all the singing vocals.
I was not aware of that, and it doesn't
Oh,
actually say that in the bio. Is this a secret for people who don't have not seen you
I was
play
going to
live?
think it was the other
No,
way.
if they see us live, they'll notice it right away. Yeah, it's like I think it just says like I don't know, like on our album credits, it'll just say like Curtis Parker guitars, vocals, Chad guitars, vocals. But like that's a huge thing that I think that helps us out because like one, even from a physicality standpoint, it spreads out the vocal like load for the song. So like these long songs, it's like cool, like Chad just sang this huge chorus. Now he has a break while I'm like going, "Bleh," and like so that is two people.
2 people, okay, alright, good. I've
Yeah.
never seen you guys live. Hopefully, I will at some point. And when you and once again, I love the guys at Metal Archives, but you failed me miserably once again because all it says for, it just says 1 vocalist on here. So, while I love to use Metal Archives as a resource many times, it can fail me. Um how does that work though? Like when you're writing, like I'm assuming you're writing a scream part and a clean vocal part, and you kind of bring that all together. And because your songs, to me, and Turbo mentioned metal, like what heavy metal should be, but there's an aspect of progginess to you guys too that makes your songs pretty complex and lots of stuff going on. So vocally, how do you figure that out when you're writing? Is it just a vision? Does it happen as you're jamming, or how
Yeah.
does that work?
I mean, sometimes like when we're writing a song, we're like, okay, like I know there's gonna be vocals here, and this is probably gonna be Chad singing it. Like if it's a big melodic part, I would like to personally have melodic vocals. Like as much as I love screaming someone doing it, sometimes I don't think that drives like the point home more so than a singing vocalist. And like Chad also has an amazing voice. So it's like he's able to do these things melodically that I actually don't think a lot of other bands can even do. Like I've been in so many bands before where like we just have a screamer or like I'm singing and I suck at it, but I feel like it needs to happen. So I'm like, that's just what it is, you know? And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we all want to make music, but like, when Chad joined the band, I was like, hey, I like, you're going to be singing as well as playing guitar. And he's like, cool, I got this. And like, I'd heard him from other bands as well. So I knew he could do it. So when it comes to writing, like we write all the music first. And like, we have pretty good ideas of like where stuff's going to go. But because we write concept albums that have a through storyline, we write the music first and then knowing that like what points we have to get out. So lyrics are kind of the last thing to get done on there. But like, even on that song, The Portal, the first song off the album, like Chad actually is the first like singing voice you hear. And originally it was going to be me. And then we flipped the parts because it just sounded weird. I didn't like how it sounded having the screaming at a certain point and the singing at a certain point. But because we flipped the parts, we actually wrote each other's lyrics.
That's cool.
It's just like
Yeah,
sometimes it
that's
just
cool.
happens like that. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm like a really hard headed about like wanting songs to sound in a certain way. And so yeah, sometimes it just works out that way. And then live, like we always say, like whoever's singing gets the easiest guitar part. That's the rule.
That's
Like
fair.
I don't care who wrote what. It's like if you're singing and you want to play the easy part, call it. Cause like you have to sing as well, you know?
You you mentioned the sound, and we were talking a little bit before we hit record on some of the comparisons that are the easy ones that you see online. You see like Baroness, you see Mastodon, and you see like High on Fire. I love that in your bio you also mentioned like Queen and I think it's Queen and David Bowie, right? Just like this sound that you can get with all the melodic stuff that's thrown into all that heavy proggy stuff you have going on. I love that, and I think I saw somewhere somebody mentioned like Coheed and that
Yeah.
emo boys and metalheads and prog heads and new metal people can all kind of somehow agree on, which is an interesting point of view. But what else? What are some of the not easy comparisons that maybe we're not hearing or not thinking about when you're just kind of being knocked over the head with these guys sound like Mastodon and Baroness, which is
Yeah.
starting to get lazy in my opinion to like
Yeah. I
comparison
mean,
wise.
the way I approach that is like, especially our early albums, we did sound a lot more like Mastodon, and that's always gonna, I think, carry through the entire time that we're making music. I don't actually get like frustrated by it, but what I think of it as is like a lot of times these music reviewers' jobs is to like equate something to something that people might know. And when you talk about sludgy progressive bands, Mastodon's always the band that's probably going to come to the forefront of most people's minds. So they're kind of just doing their jobs. I always joke that like if you listen to our music, I was like, there's so much stuff in there that Mastodon would never, like so many riffs that like you'd never hear in a Mastodon song, but we're still doing like we're tuned to drop A, there's progressiveness, there's clean vocals and screaming, which is a lot of stuff that that band also does. So it's like, I'm never mad about it, but I think like to your point, I actually do think it's a lazy comparison, but I understand like people, it doesn't hurt us usually because they're just trying to like make it an entry point for people into music.
Yeah, no, as someone who does reviews, I kind of go the opposite way. And this happens so much on these shows where I say, "Oh, you guys sound like this band," and it's some random band, and no one knows what I'm talking about. I'm like, I don't even know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. So I try to, my head goes other places. Obviously, it goes to some of the, and to be compared to Mastodon and Barons is a wonderful
There's
thing,
worse
awesome thing.
bands
Yeah,
out
I
there.
mean, those
Yeah.
bands are amazing. So it's not like we're shitting on them because those guys are awesome. And guys, come talk to me
Yeah.
on the show. That would be wonderful. But what else? What are some of the other influences that you would call out that you bring to the table or the band brings to the table that maybe we don't hear or maybe we don't think about?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I actually did like a little, it's up on our Instagram right now. I did this for something very similar with that, right? They asked for some bands, and I was like, I'm not going to name like the Mastodons and the Opeths because I think those are bands that are just everyone knows. But there's a few bands I put on there that I am a big fan of. One of them I screamed to the end of the earth. This band called Hawken, which is a UK kind of prog metal band, but they're not like super metal, but like they're heavy still, you know. I don't know if you guys have
I
heard of that
think they
band.
just lost a couple members. I think 2 guys
They just
quit,
lost their
right?
bass player, and I'm really sad about it because that bass player was phenomenal. But but I think they traveled like when they would tour, it would mostly be with bands like Between the Buried and Me. So they kind of traveled in that more modern, not metalcore, but like that kind of world a little bit more. So I think fans of our music might not find them naturally, but they have an album called The Mountain that I'm obsessed with. I can put it on any day and still be like, this is awesome. And I think tonally, they're really good at writing like heavy progressive songs, but really melodically meaningful songs, which is important for me. And like that is how I want to approach Witch Ripper's music as well. I mean, I always talk about like I think bands like Intronaut's last album I really like. They're way heavier than we are and a lot crazier, but I still like love how they approach songs. That's kind of how a little bit of how I do as well, you know. Uh yeah, there's I mean, I don't know how deep you want me to get into this, but there's a lot of like little nerdy prog bands I love that just like kind of influence me here and there.
Please, let's do it. Give us some more.
Yeah. So a band called Vulcan, I want to say they're from Sweden or Finland, some one of those areas over there. They write these absolutely crazy awesome prog albums. Their last two particularly the last one's called Technatura, but there's one before that. I'm forgetting the name of it. Awesome band. Like, and I never find people that have heard of that band. They just played some fest, I think, in Canada. So like they have fans, and they're a well known band, but I just don't think they're well known like in the U.S.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
looking at the Prague archives, and, they are definitely proggy looking for sure, but they call out things like Mars Volta, Zappa, Mastodon,
dude.
that type of
I mean, like the Mars Volta thing, like that Technatura album, they definitely have some kind of Latin influences on that album, particularly. But I'm like, this is awesome. You know, it's so cool, and their vocalist is great, and they write really cool stuff. Some of the more like bands people might know is like We All Love Elder. You know, like that's a great band. I think that like really carved out their like move beyond just fuzzed out doom stuff to like this kind of progressive, expansive songwriting that I love. You know,
kinda label mates with you. Well, not quite, but kind of, because they're
I
on
mean,
Blue
Jad
Sugar
runs
now.
both,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so, that's pretty cool, and, hopefully soon we'll have Elder on the show. I don't wanna jinx it, but hopefully that's gonna happen soon.
Yeah, they
That would
should have. Is that new album out yet? I don't even
It's
know.
May, but,
Okay.
I'm in negotiations right now, let's just say that.
You
Um,
should, yeah. They're great guys. I've I've let them borrow my amps before when they played Seattle. You know, it's like they're really, really nice guys. I've gotten tacos with them and stuff. You know, they're great humans.
Very cool. They've kinda taken that next step for bands that were in that kinda heavy underground
Dude.
scene, and you mentioned Seattle, you're from Seattle. You did a Soundgarden cover on a Sea on a, the Magnetic Eye, Soundgarden, tribute records. Turbo and I are huge, we came up in that era, like the '90s grunge era and all the
Yeah,
amazing stuff that's there. That's some of our favorite stuff. Any of that influence you? I guess generally being from that area, maybe you have no choice, or maybe I just think that people who like heavy rock are into that stuff when you live
dude.
in that area. So
I don't think anyone that plays like dark, maybe mid-tempo metal or rock and roll can't say Alice in Chains is an influence on their music. Like those guys, like I even like their newer stuff with the other singer too. Like they continue to write just great songs. Like absolutely, like they've influenced my band over the years. We don't sound anything like them, but like I listen to their music constantly. I love that stuff. Chad was I mean, I feel it's funny, like, Chad, I feel like was, like, the least metal guy of the band. You know, he's always liked heavy music, especially bands like Botch and stuff like that, and, like, These Arms Are Snakes, that kinda post-hardcore.
mathy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he grew up with, same with Brian, like, they both grew up with, like, being teenagers being like, "Oh god, Botch is playing Numos, let's go freak out," you know? But he's a huge Soundgarden guy, like, And like same with like just most of those big 90s bands that you've heard of, and probably a bunch you haven't, but like he comes from that more alternative rock, indie rock world. But obviously he's always been a fan of heavy music, otherwise he wouldn't be in this band. But like that's a huge inspiration for him. And I think like you probably hear it in his voice a little bit. He can get that Chris Cornell thing going if he needs to. You know, it's kind of crazy.
That I think that's where that sound comes from. It's interesting that he's the guy who has that
Yeah.
background given his vocals. And I think I said in your review or an interview, like, I don't think anyone would have thought when Alice in Chains was out that they'd wind up being maybe one of the most influential bands in music today of, like, heavy underground music that we listen to. Like, I don't know who doesn't have, like, them as a band that they would call out in some capacity from an influence
Yeah.
standpoint.
It's like crazy, like that band and also the Melvins were like bands I'd never would have thought would be like, yeah, the Melvins. I'm like, what? Like all like I mean, there's that documentary about I Hate God where they're like, yeah, we heard that one Melvins album, and all of a sudden we're like, we gotta do that, but our gross way of doing it. And like awesome. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's like it kinda reminds me of the Ramones when, like, all the punk bands, copied the Ramones when the Ramones made 0 money from the Ramones being the
Yeah.
Ramones, but everybody else made a ton of money off of, the Ramones sound, so
I'm sure Buzz has a lot to say about it.
well, I'm sure he does, and a lot of other things. Um,
Yeah.
Trevor, what else you have for Curtis while we have him?
I wanted to discuss the Portal video. Did you
Yeah.
all choreograph that yourself? Did anybody catch on fire for sitting in a circle of candles? And are you all the Weedians?
Dude, I mean, so one, like the guy we got to work with for that video is like incredible. And he happened to like be in bands with Chad. And I think they went to high school together up in Bellingham, which is about 2 hours north of Seattle. But he's like, he does music videos for like all the neural DSP stuff. Like he does like, there's some video of like Steve I and Polyphia where they're playing on a roof. He did that. Like he's like a real videographer. And he's just like, I love you guys. Like I'm down to work with you guys within your budget. And so we basically like we shot that video in the music venue that I work at, but we lit it so you couldn't actually tell where it was shot because it's just an empty room with like lights. So it looks like it could be anywhere. And then like, yeah, man, I bought all those candles. I bought all those costumes. Like it was like we put this thing together. Actually, it's funny. Built this thing. I don't know if you can see it. This like skull thing with all the candles on it. That's in that video. It's just on
Yeah.
my dining room table now. But like, yeah, we had put all that together. And to your point, like we lit all those candles and we had to like step over them to get in that circle. And I was like, all right, guys, like get the fire extinguisher out because these cheap Amazon robes are gonna like burst into flames if they catch that stuff. But it was fun and like, like the whole idea was like I wanted to do something that had like we were talking about like campy 70s kind of horror thing going on. And like within our budget, we only had like one location to shoot everything, that kind of stuff like that. And I think we pulled it off pretty well. And like all those little like weird cult dance moves, we were just like made them up on the spot. And so if you'd listen to us doing that, we'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, what? Like we had to count to kind of keep it in time and stuff like that. And like the videographer is like, yeah,
First, I
so
thought
for
y'all were
these
playing
moves, yeah.
patty cake, or
But dude, I got these like ridiculous like they're like leather gloves with long fingers. They look like drag queen gloves, and so we're all just like doing like wiggly finger stuff, and like it's fun, yeah. But it was fun to make that, and like it's yeah, I feel like music videos are like a labor of love because I don't, obviously like MTV's not around and like that, so they don't always get the kind of attention they should. But like I'm really happy that we got to kind of do that and that it'll be around forever. That so I can like look back in that and like, yeah, I was in that silly robe, like that one, the robe of the guy like holding the hourglass. And he's like doing this. That's me inside of that thing.
It's awesome.
So
One of
yeah,
that's
the bands that
killer.
we interviewed lately, Sonos, they did, check out their video. It's for a song called, oh my g Pagan Woman, and it is the cheesiest, most wonderful thing that you'll ever see
love it.
like, there's sword fighting, there's a heart that gets pulled out, there's a wizard, and it's all those guys just doing their thing, and it's the most glorious thing because I think that's what videos need to be these days. They need to just be things that, you know, connect you to the music or something that brings you in, not like the big thing that used to be on MTV where you'd spend millions of dollars to, to have Axl Rose on some, aircraft carrier singing the 10th
Still
best
tight.
song on Use Your Illusion. But I digress. Axel, if you're listening, I'll also have you on the show. So
Ha!
uh,
That'd be funny.
that would be hilarious. So the new record, I want to get back to that Through the Hourglass. Are you guys going on tour on that? Are you guys playing out with
Yeah.
that? Tell us the plans for that.
So I don't know when this will come out, but I believe like as of recording this within the next week, they're going to announce our first tour, which will be like a 16-day West Coast tour. And then after that, we have we're solidifying some plans for end of September that we can't announce yet, but it'll be basically like traveling out to play a festival and coming back. And then we're gonna like do a bunch of regional stuff as well, and we'll probably do like one more thing at the end of the year as well. So we want to play out as much as possible. It's always tough, like I'm 40 years old. None of us are spring chickens. We all have lives and like stuff like that. So we want to play as much as possible, and we make a real effort to. And I feel like we actually do a lot for what we are doing, but like just balancing everything and getting out, like, doing like 3 tours a year, even though they're not like full US tours, it's still like feels like it's a lot. I mean, we're stoked about it because we love playing out live and stuff.
Very cool. Yeah, and I think for people who get to see bands like yourselves, who are ones who are not necessarily like a full-time band, who can be a full-time band these days, right?
Yeah.
It's just not necessarily a thing that anyone can really do. But I got to see like Temptress, another um, label mate kinda of you guys. I got to see them. It's kind of a special thing when you get to see a band like that who they don't do a lot of like, they're doing as much as they can. They did a Florida stint, and it was so much fun to see that level of band. So I'm sure your fans are going to be stoked, especially the ones who are not in region to get to see you guys play when you do your West
Dude.
Coast thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, we've had like the last tour we did, which was like last spring, like we've had people like, yeah, I drove an hour to be here. I am stoked about it. I remember the one that was crazy is when we played Colorado. This guy's like, yeah, I flew out from Philadelphia because he has a buddy that lives in Colorado and they both love that last album. So he's like, hey, I'm going to use this as a reason to hang out with my buddy in Colorado. And the point of it is to go to this show where there's like 60 people at and watch Witch Ripper. And they were like the coolest dudes ever. Like people are doing that, which is, we can't thank them enough.
It's awesome. And for fans like myself or people or that guy in Philadelphia, when you can't make it out there, what else are we going to do, right? And I think that's the level of support you mentioned earlier. I think it was before we hit record, like the kind of scene kind of thing that we need around heavy music and
Yeah.
underground music, and that's the kind of thing that I think we see with a lot of the bands that we talk to and the people who dig the music that of the bands that we have on the show, for example. So I think that's a very cool
Yeah.
story, and I think regardless of how many people in the room, the people who are there like are very excited to see a band who they probably
Dude,
didn't think they'd be able to.
I mean, I'm always blown away. Like, I feel like Witch Ripper is this kind of sleeper band because I don't think like we're not in the press as much. We're not on these big fests, but like literally every record we've ever done is sold out.
I
Like
know.
you
I was going
can't,
to ask you if any of your first one was laying around anywhere.
no, I mean, like, so it's like the fan support is there. And it's always like, we're always trying to like tell that to like festival people or like bookers, like, hey, like, it's not like we're doing like a 100 copy run of a vinyl record. These are like big presses and they're all sold out. And so it's like, we really appreciate like the fan support that we get because like we're doing something kind of a little bit different. And being on Magnetic Eye and being associated with a lot more of these kind of doom style bands, like we're not a doom band, but we do feel like we've gotten support from the fan base of that community a lot. And I think they do appreciate having like stuff they can relate to, but also something very different than maybe they're normally getting exposed to.
Yeah. And just a shout out to Jad and all he's doing with Magnetic Eye and Blues Funeral. I mean, we're talking to Abrams and next week we have Ritual um right who else do we have on the show? Terrible. I mentioned one that we might have soon as well. But we had Temptress on the show. We've had pretty much everyone. Kal-El we've had on the show. Restless Spirit. That's who we have on the show coming up. Who I think a Restless Spirit Witch Ripper double combo bill would be a glorious metal day. In
We've
my
done it.
opinion. Oh, you have done that.
Yeah, one time they played Ripple Fest and they wanted to like, hey, if we keep going on the West Coast, and I was like, well, yeah, let's do it. So I think we just did 4 days with them, but
Nice.
we did like 2 Oregon dates and 2 Washington dates, and like they stayed at my house, you
That's
know?
awesome. That's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
And same with Abrams guys. I mean, it's always a small world. Like you said, I work at a venue as well that has a lot of metal in it. And so it's like the Abram guys have like played the venue I work at, and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
yeah, that's awesome, and it's just fun, like, I got to talk to, the guys in Restless Spirit, and then I got to meet them when they played in Orlando, and that's a cool thing. Same thing with Temptress, I got to and Friendship Commanders, I got to talk to them on the show and get to hang out with them afterwards, and you don't get
But
that
dude,
with anything else, with any other kinda music that you
they're awesome.
yeah,
And like, Paul and all the guys are like so nice and they're wonderful. And like Jerry from Friendship Commanders, another great
such a
human
great
being.
dude, yeah,
Yeah.
I walked into the venue, and he's just standing there, he's like, "Rich," I'm like, "Jerry, you're really tall," and then we talked for, like, the rest of the night, just a great guy.
Yeah. I think he makes an effort to like, I mean, I don't know if you're friends with him on social media. He's a very political
Yeah,
guy. And I think he stands for a lot of things I agree with. And I like that even in Nashville, where he might have a lot of people that disagree with him, he's still very vocal about it, and not in an antagonistic way, but like in a way that's like comes from his heart. And so I always appreciate that about people.
yeah, when I had them on the show that like, you felt that from them, regardless of what position they stood on, like, what they were saying, they had these convictions, and they were gonna stand by these convictions, and the other thing about
Totally.
Jerry, watching him drum, um, up close. The dude is a that's the first thing I said to him after he was done. I'm like, "Dude, you're a monster." I was blown away, by s and obviously Buick on stage too, and her playing and her singing, but I was watching Jerry just closely and what he was doing. I'm like, "Damn, these guys are all great dudes," but also, like, musicianship is off the charts.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, very cool. I thought I was booking a Restless Spirit Witch Ripper, unique show, but it's already been done. So, been there, done that.
It was
Uh,
actually really cool because like the Seattle date, we ended up combining it with like, I think they're called like 1,000 mods from like Greece or something like that. And so we had like them, Restless Spirit, us. Like I combined a thing and made this like almost like mini like 7 band cool Doom Fest thing in Seattle. And that Seattle date was insane.
oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Definitely makes my couple of shows a year in Orlando, makes me very jealous of what other people can see. Um, Turbo, what anything else for Curtis? We've already kept him longer than promised.
It's all
Real
good.
quick, I don't know if this will turn into a long story or not, but I was just curious because a lot of times we just take names of bands for granted and never really granted, whatever. Um, and don't ever really think about it. What's rich? What is Witch Ripper? What does it mean?
Oh man. Honestly, nothing. It's so like it's one of those things where like when I was so I started this project almost 14 years ago. Like I was living in Minneapolis at the time and I wanted to move back to Seattle, and I recorded that first EP with the drummer of my old band. I played everything on it, just did everything. And then I moved to Seattle and I wanted to put this band together and I was like, I got to name it something. And I was like, "Oh, Witch Ripper, that's cool. I've never heard that before." And this was 14 years ago, and literally 2 years later, I think the Doom thing really started taking off, and everyone was Witch Bong Ripper Smoke, blah 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 blah. And I was like, "God damn it!" Like, so I thought I was being like real cool at the time, but now it's like it's become kind of a generic name. And where we're at in our careers, it's like, why change it? Like it is what it is, and like I don't dislike it. It's interesting though. I do notice sometimes people might they're like, they hear the name like, oh, it's going to be some other like doom band that I probably kind of heard before. You know, you kind of think what you might expect, so they might not give it a chance. But then when they do, they're like, oh, what is this? You know?
Yeah, I don't think you sound like your name at all. Like, I don't think the
Yeah,
band sounds like a Witch Ripper, in any capacity. I'm actually talking to the band Witch Piss right now out of Belgium, which do sound like their name, and that is a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
compliment to the guys in Witch Piss who we're going to hopefully talk to in a couple weeks. Um, it's a great question, Turbo, because when we ask that question, we get all sorts of wonderful, and a lot of the times it's exactly how you answered it. It's like, just came up with something, threw some names around, and it is what it is.
Dude.
So names
Yeah,
sound like a terrible thing to have to try to figure out at this point in time.
it's hard not to feel dumb. You know, like, it's just is, like, you're like, "I gotta name this something," you throw out an idea and you're like, "Man, that's really dumb." And, like, I feel like
Yeah,
Witch Ripper, I'm, like, okay with it in the sense of, like, alright, like, you know, it does sound like more like a doomy metal name, or, like, we get a thrash band kinda name maybe, but I'm like, you know what? It still sounds like a metal band name, which is I'm okay with, you know? But, like, naming a band is like you ask anybody and they're like, "You'll never feel dumber than when you're trying to name your band."
I,
Because 1, everyth's been done, and then, like, it's just yeah.
I think, like, for people who don't have bands, it's more fun to come up with band names than it is for people who have bands. Like, I was at a thing at work, and somebody said the comment "fifth quadrant," and I'm like, "Wow, that means nothing," and that's a terrible thing in a from a business standpoint, because there's no such thing as a fifth quadrant, but shit, that might be a good name for a band, even though I have 0 talent,
Yeah.
It
uh
would have to be like a mathy prog rock
yeah,
band,
that would have to be, because yeah, you'd
and
have
they
to
have
have
Mhm.
to have songs in 5/4.
equations running across the screen during the videos.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Curtis, this has been amazing. The new record called Through the Hourglass, it comes out on the greatest day of the year, April 10th. It's on Magnetic Eye. You should pre-order the vinyl now because, as Curtis mentioned, every Witch Ripper vinyl is sold out anywhere. I don't want anybody to have to go and spend $100 on Discogs to get this record. I think I might have gotten like one of the last records of the flight after the fall. I think there was like one left on Bandcamp when I bought the blue one. So the point
Yeah.
of me telling you guys this is that the pre-order is up now through Magnetic Eye. Go get it. It's amazing. If you like the first record, you're gonna love this one. And I guess because you use the Star Wars analogy, we have um New Hope, we have Empire. Will there be after Through the Hourglass, which comes out in April? It's not even out yet. And I'm asking you about part 3. Is there a planned part 3 for this trilogy?
I don't know. So, for people that, like, pay attention to the story, it ends in a way I really like. Excuse me. We're like, without giving too much away, our 2 protagonists kinda reconcile their differences, and they decide that instead of being stuck in some place they don't wanna be, they're gonna, like, embrace each other and just fly into the sun and let it all kind of melt away, you know? And so it's like, I really like how that ends, and even lyrically in that last song, you know, I quote, like, song titles and lyrics from the previous album as just a way to tie everything together, you know?
Callback, yeah.
So I do love that it buttons up really nicely. I mean, we're gonna keep writing music, so who knows? It's like we haven't started writing. I've been talking about how I really wanna do, like, more of a post-metal, like, almost like Yob style album just to, like, kinda palate cleanse all this, like, crazy prog we've been doing over the last 5 years. Maybe that'll be an EP of just a couple songs just to, like, you know, just to try something different and then go back to it. Who knows, you know?
There have been more definitive endings of things that had another part, when it comes to TV shows and movies. So you never know. You never know,
Dude,
right? So,
well, The Fire for the Fall ends with him flying into a black hole.
so
And then if you want the fun fact, I don't know if you that very intro to the album, that's actually the last minute of the previous album reversed. So if you listen to Everlasting and Retrograde, and then immediately started the album Through the Hourglass. It's going to sound like a decrescendo into a crescendo, and it's actually literally the same music. Like, so it'd be going, and then it'll stop and reverse. Sounds kind of like that sucking sound into that's how the next album
That's
starts.
friggin' awesome, and that absolutely confirms
Yeah.
how proggy you guys are. That is the proggiest thing that I've
Oh,
ever heard.
do you want me to say something even worse? It's like the keys of the songs as you go through the portal to the last song, they actually travel in a minor scale, and it's intentional. So it's like the first song's in the key of A, then it goes to B, then to C, then to D, and then the E, and then lands once it hits the fifth back in the key of A to make a minor scale as you're actually listening to the song.
The proggiest band in America is now
No one
officially
will care except for me. But I
officially
was like,
Witch
as I was
Ripper.
writing this, I was like, we're doing this.
There's not a proggier band, and don't let that scare you because they're heavy as fuck too. So everybody
Thank
go
you.
listen to the single is out now. You can listen to the single. It's on Bandcamp. Actually, two singles, The Portal and The Clock Queen, are both available right now. Record comes out on April 10th. Go pre-order it. Curtis, please say hi to the guys for us.
Yeah.
Super.
Say hi to all the Abrams and Restless Spirit guys too, because I'm buddies with them.
We
So
will.
yeah, so Curtis says hi.
And we appreciate your time, and thank you so much. I think this record is going to be a huge one for you, and people are really going to dig it. Not that they haven't the other ones, but I'm very confident this one's going to do the same or even better. So thank you so
All
much.
I care about is, yeah, the people can just check it out. That's all I ever care about.
Sounds
So,
great. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you very much. Have
dude,
a great
thank
rest of your
you.
day, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah. Thanks. Good to meet you, man.